With 28 years of service to country and community, Sergeant Frank has plenty of life experience to share. When his service was complete, he wasn't satisfied with retirement. Sergeant Frank founded Adopt a Cop USA, a nonprofit organization that mentors kids with law enforcement officers in our schools. His vision is to change the perception of law enforcement one child at a time. This show covers a wide range of topics with people who make positive impacts on others' lives. Today's show features a retired law enforcement officer who is now a local business owner of the Branford Pawn and Jewelry in Branford, Florida. George Duren has teamed up with Adopt a Cop USA to help us with our program. He is here to tell us why he likes our program and to tell us about a great 4th of July event that he's putting on for his community. It is my honor to introduce the one and only Sergeant Frank.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Sergeant Frank Show. Today, the Bird Dog and I are talking to an amazing American by the name of George Duren. Welcome to the show, George.
Hey, glad to be here.
So, we want to get a little background of why you think organizations such as Adopt a Cop USA are something that you and your friends want to work with.
Well, as a retired law enforcement officer, I've dealt with kids over the years. And when I got introduced to Adopt a Cop, their program and what they're trying to accomplish really touched my heart. They're looking to help the youth and take some of the kids that are kind of marginal and get them back into a good way of life. And it just really stood out to me and made me want to help do something with them.
Well, you're 100% right, and that's why we created this program, because we saw there was a lot of deficiencies in our education system and some of the social services that were being provided throughout different communities around Florida. And bringing our country together through education for our children will, in the long run, make a better America for all that are concerned. Because one of the biggest things that we've seen is the lack of accountability and responsibility for our children at a very young age.
Absolutely. And one of the real goals that I see y'all have is teaching the kids respect and caring and looking out for others as well as themselves. And y'all really drive that point home.
You know, when I was a kid, my parents were pretty strict, and I came from a very strong family of values. And when one of us got out of line, it didn't really take too much to get a correction to me. And, you know, today I think our society has kind of lost the focus of how that really is supposed to work. If you're correcting your child, it's perfectly within the legal limits of our system to go ahead and administer a good open hand smack on the buttocks.
It's even okay to use a belt.
It is. One of the biggest things when I was still active law enforcement is parents were scared to discipline their kids. And without a disciplinary action when kids do something wrong, and they're continued to do the same thing over again without any repercussions or correction, it breeds a problem in the whole society. And teaching kids between right and wrong and being a part of their life and a parent is key into raising good children.
I heard one of the statistics for people going to prison, and it was in the 90 percentile, where families that don't have an active father in the household, that those children were ending up going into our prison system.
That wouldn't surprise me a bit. I think the rate gets higher and higher as time goes on because of the single-parent families, and it's really sad. And having good parenting is key to raising kids where they respect society and each other.
So when we're asking our male volunteers to come forward, we're looking for a really strong male role model for some of these young men in our country, because whether it's their dad or another strong male role model, such as a coach, could be somebody in the junior ROTC program, could even be like a youth leader for some of these different organizations. These kids see what a real man does in his household and how they conduct themselves. And without that leadership in place, we are on a very big, slippery slope, pulling our country down below the waves of justice.
Absolutely. And volunteers are needed and appreciated in the role that a Adopt-A-Cop is playing with the youth of today.
I think you said something earlier about disciplining our children. And without that correction, we see this in the justice system, or I call it the legal system today, because we have repeat offenders breaking the law and being released because we don't have a facility to house people that have been breaking the law.
Yeah, I've been saying that for years. They keep building all these apartment complexes and housing complexes and schools, but they're not building enough jails.
You're absolutely right. And the revolving door that our legal system has gotten to the point where unless it's a major crime, they don't even want to prosecute it. And that puts a bad lesson in place for the kids and the youth because there's no repercussion for what they're doing. And it's a slap on the wrist with no real penalty to make them not want to repeat that action that they did.
You're right. And a slap on the wrist only helps and only works when they're like 2 years old.
Which brings me to my next point. I'm glad you said that, Bird Dog. And that's why we're in elementary schools, because we have to get these young men and women on track as early as possible so that they understand there is accountability and the responsibility that's required of them to be good citizens in this country. When you continue to not follow through with the mandates that the court sets forth because of a housing issue, you're going to end up in the situation that we're in today. And I think another big problem is the fact that without the accountability, our kids have no one to look up to role model with, because they see people in their families or people in our society. And if you're a movie star or a celebrity, the law is different because of your social place in this world. What kind of example is that for our children when they should be setting the best example for our children?
It's a terrible example. And the people that are on the TV and these stars that can do anything they want and nothing happens to them creates a very bad example for the youth and children of this country, because when they get to a certain point, it's not the same standard, and they wind up thinking they can do something and it'll be okay, but it's not.
That goes all the way up to even politicians. Something that really got to me that I saw, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe a year or two ago, but I saw a bunch of people from Congress throwing a fit like little school children sitting on the floor refusing to work. And I was like, oh my God, these are our people that we elected to run this country, and they're acting like children.
Absolutely. We can do a whole nother show on that if y'all want to.
We're probably going to have to do a series with you, George. I guarantee you that.
Well, I didn't mean to get into politics right away, but that just burns my butt to see stuff like that. It's like, you ain't getting my way, so I'm just going to sit down and cry about it.
Yeah, we can do a whole series on that, from the local politicians all the way to Washington.
Absolutely. And something you said earlier about the accountability factor, a lot of times I don't think our listening audience understands when somebody gets released from jail after they committed a heinous crime. A lot of times I think the blame goes back to law enforcement, but that's not the situation at all. The lawyers and the judges, and you can't be a judge unless you were a lawyer, I'm pretty sure. So our society looks at law enforcement as failing them because these people are back on the street. And the reality of that, that's not the case at all, because of loopholes in the law, lawyer trickery, and the injustices of our system. That's how you end up with somebody who committed several, let's say, DUI arrests, and they're back out driving again, and they end up killing somebody, possibly a family member of yours.
True. Well, it used to be you did not have to be an attorney or a lawyer to be a judge. They changed all that some years ago to where the only judges have to be attorneys now. But one of the problems with the legal system now is the legislature. They're making laws and tying the hands of many judges. And when you get into elected officials, most of the time they're looking more out for votes than they are for doing the right thing for people. And it really gets to be a vicious circle and a corrupt system.
What would be your solution for that situation of corruption in the system?
There again, everything goes back to accountability for your actions. When the people allow it to happen and look for favors, and that's what it boils down to, is who you know and the favor that can be done. And when they're elected positions, it all goes back to politics and elections and votes. And occasionally it runs right into dollars. So the corruption runs deep in a lot of places. And people don't think about, do me a favor, I'm donating to your campaign. And later on down the road, I want to collect on that donation. That's what you call corruption.
What would you say about the apathy of our voter turnout, especially in some of these elections we just had, where you have 1,400, 2,000 people that can vote, and you have about 150 people show up to the polls?
People just don't think that their vote matters anymore. And it's gotten to the point where people believe that nothing they do will make any difference because the government's running everything, and once they elect somebody in there, the person does what they want instead of what the people want, and they're making the decision for the people instead of talking to their constituents and letting the constituents bring a majority. They pick the people they want to listen to instead of listening to everybody, and then they're making a decision on what they feel is best instead of what the people want. The Constitution and our founding fathers made it very clear, and it's become so convoluted that they're trying to take away all of our rights and all those protections that were put in place. Just look at what's going on in the news with your Second Amendment and First Amendment rights as far as free speech. On the internet, there is no real free speech anymore because it's censored in a lot of places. It's in the news all the time now.
It seems like a certain special interest group censors it when it goes against what they're trying to say.
Absolutely. There's good examples of that out there right now. In advertising money, they're all private companies. Facebook's a private company. They're not. If it was a government, they would try to say that it's uncensored. But even as a private company, they have their interest in the bottom line is money. And that's what they're there for, advertising money and whatever sells. But when you have people that are hardline liberals or I don't want to get into the sectors, but they have their own interest at heart, and it's not the interest of the people.
Well, it definitely seems like immorality is selling, and when you have a special interest group that's wagging the dog, in other words, the tail is wagging the dog, then everything is out of whack.
Oh,
When
definitely.
you don't have like you said before, a broad base of people's concerns making it to the decision makers, because like you just said, they're trying to make sure they get reelected and not necessarily do the fair and honest thing, which we all used to call justice.
True. And priorities for people aren't necessarily the priority of the people that put them in office. Therefore, the people get left behind, and what's best for the constituents don't get done because of special interest.
Well, that's why we're doing what we're doing. Is I mean, you gotta start somewhere. We're not going to change everybody's perception overnight. We're not going to change the whole world in a week. It's going to take a long time, but we're doing it like our tagline. One child at a time.
That's all you can do. In the law enforcement area, there's a lot of good cops out there, and there's also some bad ones.
We don't hear about the good ones because all they want to report is the bad stuff.
That's true. So there are a lot of good law enforcement out there that are there, and they try to help people and not just try to create statistics and a name for themselves.
Well, I think a lot of the people in our group and our age group between me, the bird dog, and George joined law enforcement to make a difference and make the world a better place. And then as we went along in our jobs, we kept running into stumbling blocks and walls. And eventually we became handcuffed and blindfolded and pushed out of a patrol car at a high speed and say, go do your job. And that's just not possible with those kind of things in place.
No, unfortunately now it's become most law enforcement are report writers. They don't even want to make arrests unless they're forced to. They'd rather fill out the report, send it in, let the state attorney decide, so the burden and liabilities off their back. But if you're scared of getting sued as a cop, you shouldn't be a cop because it's going to happen.
Yeah, I was sued once. Well, a couple times, but once for $500 million. Thought that was pretty funny.
Well, I know you have that in your wallet.
Yeah.
I don't think if you added up every cop's salary in the world, we could even touch that.
No.
But based on going back to what George had said about the problems of law enforcement, I think that one of the biggest issues that we saw in our career and where the area that we worked was when you start putting the PowerPoint police in charge of the police officers that are out there on the road doing the daily grind, making the arrests, making the stops. That's where we come into trouble because our leadership has failed us in law enforcement because they forget where they come from or they never even did a job to begin with. And they're making decisions for the rank and file when they never were in their position.
This is true. If you haven't started at the bottom, how do you know what to do at the top?
That's a great statement right there. I like that.
And it bothers me when I hear people say, well, the only way to change this is from the top. That's totally opposite. Change can only begin at the bottom. And when I say the bottom, I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but our children are the education of our children and teaching those lessons of responsibility at an early age is the only way they can learn accountability as they become adults. If you live a life where you can think you can do whatever you want, whenever you want to, you're going to eventually meet somebody wearing a badge and they're going to take the action that they were sworn to do on the oath that they swore to, and they're going to put you in jail. Now, you might not stay there because of the system, but you are going to take the ride. And sometimes it's too late to change people with that mindset. But if we go early enough in our elementary schools, I believe we can make a difference to put our country back on track and put the United back in the United States.
Absolutely. It's a tall order, and it's gone a long way in the other direction. But if you don't start getting the youth that are going to come up and run this country, so hopefully we can get some good, sound, grounded people running the show, we're lost.
So, George, I know you own a pawn and jewelry store in Branford. The people that come in, I mean, I know you sell guns there as well. Is that correct?
True.
You get anybody that come in and get mad at you for selling guns or do anything crazy like that?
Actually, I've never had anybody come in and get mad at me for selling firearms, and we get a diverse group of people that come through there from all walks of life and all over the country, including Canada, Mexico, California. I don't think there's a state out there that I haven't had somebody come into the shop from. Super people, and everybody likes a pawn shop. They like to see what's there. And we've probably got one of the most unique shops in the state. It's different. We've got something for everybody. Antiques, antique guns, modern firearms. We've got a little bit of it all. We're a Class 3 dealer. I'm actually a 0702, which we manufacture suppressors, and we can do custom work on guns. And we've got anything you can think of. We stock more than anybody in North Florida. We've got jewelry. We've got tools. We've got old tractor tires. You name it, we got it. If we don't have it, we can get it. If we can't get it or make it, it's illegal or you shouldn't have it.
Well, and I just want to say something because somebody asked me today. We did not pawn our police car.
Oh, we are getting people coming in all the time wanting to buy that thing. And,
Well, when they get to 100,000, give them my number. We'll talk.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it.
That's
But it's a great attraction and a great attention getter, and we have lots of people stop just because it's out there, and it's just a super group of people y'all are to be doing what you're doing, and we hope people will volunteer, and if they're not volunteering their time, they can make a one-time donation or even get on a monthly donation to help support the cause. And from what I understand, there's no paid people. Every once in a while, you'll have to pay somebody just for extra help at events and stuff. But everybody's volunteers. All the money that goes in there goes to support and educate. And it's just a real good cause and real great people that are working there.
George, tell us about the Flying D Gun Club.
Oh, Gun Club, we started that last December, fair warning to myself. North Florida really needs a gun range, so we started the Flying D Gun Club. And we got all the approvals and blessed by the county last December. Everything's coming along real good with it. We have people shooting now. Memberships are available. And we also have daily shoots for people that can't afford or don't want to become a member. And we're fixing to have a super explosive time on the 4th of July where people can come out and see what goes on.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. So what do y'all got going on there?
4th of July, we're going to have Adopt a Cop, Law Dog, Sergeant Frank, and we are going to have the demonstration of binary targets with some super explosive targets. We're going to have some raffles, and we'll be giving away a gun. And we're going to have a special event that I'm not going to tell you about on here, but when you get there, you'll get to find out what it is. And we're going to cut a tree down, and somebody's going to win a raffle for cutting it down. It's a real special deal, and there'll be, I think, Sergeant Franks and the Law Dogs don't cook hamburgers and hot dogs for donations, and we'll have a little bit of smoked meat out there, and we'll have bullets and barbecue. Bullets will go down range, and barbecue will go in your belly.
Where do you find a Flying D Gun Club?
Oh, Branford, Florida is located at 27 and 129 right on the Swanee River. And if you follow 27, that's U.S. Highway 27 east, 1.5 miles, you'll see the big red and yellow sign out front that says Flying D Gun Club. We'll have some flags flying and stuff out there on the 4th, so you can't miss it. There'll be parking available for people to see the Branford fireworks that evening. It'll be a uncongested parking space, and it won't take you 2 hours after the fireworks to get out and go home. We'll have parking available, and if you're out there for the big explosive event we're going to have, you'll be right there when that finishes up, ready to see the fireworks at the Branford exhibition.
Cool. Does it cost anybody? Does it cost money to get into it?
We're going to do a $5 donation to get in and for the parking and everything, and that'll include some stuff going on. We'll have some different things you can participate in. If people don't want to donate to get in there to be able to see fireworks, that'll be okay too. But we would really appreciate the donation so we can help out these kids.
So you said it's a good viewing spot for the incredible Branford firework display?
Absolutely. You'll be able to see all the fireworks that go off at Hatch Park, but they set them off every year. It's exactly 1 mile by the way the crow flies, and we have an unobstructed area once they get airborne, and you'll be able to see everything going off. It'll be a nice time.
Well, very cool. So the address is 7301 US Highway 27, and that's located in Branford, Florida. And you'll probably see I'm sorry?
1.5 miles east of Branford.
1.5 miles east of Branford, and you'll probably see the Adopt-A-Cop police car parked out in front, possibly even with the lights on, to make sure that all the people that want to be patriotic and show their support for Adopt-A-Cop USA and the Flying D Gun Club, you'll be able to locate it fairly easily.
Yep, won't be hard to find it all.
Now, have you done this event at your gun club before, or is this the first annual?
Nope, this is the first annual 4th of July event. We have a spring turkey shoot and a fall turkey shoot every year. We've had 2 of those so far. And if you keep watching FlyingDGunClub.com, you'll see all the events listed, everything that's going on. You can see the flyers for the Adopt-A-Cop 4th of July extravaganza and the explosive good time that we're going to have. So we hope everybody comes out and enjoys the show and get to hear a bunch of booms.
Well, it sounds really great. So on Facebook, how would they locate your website or your webpage or your Facebook page?
Just look up Flying D Gun Club or either Branford Pond and Jewelry. You can find this and all the information on both of them.
And Bird Dog, where could he find more information about Adopt-A-Cop USA?
I don't know. I've been looking for a long time. I'm just kidding. Our Facebook page is Adopt-A-Cop USA official site. And remember the official site because there's a couple others out there that aren't us. We have a YouTube channel. It's the same thing, Adopt-A-Cop USA official site. We like to do a lot of videos. And if you're listening to this podcast, obviously you found us. And our website is www.myaacusa.org. And that does not stand for Myakusa, but it looks like a Myakusa. It's basically it's MyAAC, which stands for Adopt-A-Cop, and then USA, obviously United States of America .org.
Well, very awesome. And if you need to make a phone call and talk to George Duren, it's 386-935-3905. If you have any questions about purchasing any firearms or any of the other amazing things that he has in his store. And if somebody is outside this area, can they contact you and actually purchase a firearm through you, George?
Absolutely. We can ship nationwide, except there's a few places that have some restrictions. You'll know where those are if you're in those areas. But we also, if you go to BranfordPond.com, you can order right online. We've got a secret website for firearms there, and we hope you take a look at it.
Very good, very good. Well, we really appreciate you, and I do mean this. I think we're going to have to do a series because there are so many different issues that are extremely important to our listening audience and would like more information about how they can become better equipped, better educated Americans so they can make intelligent choices when it comes time to voting for a candidate, what you need to know and how to find the information so that you can put the right people in office, and how extremely important it is that you do get out and vote, because your vote does make a difference. Don't let the apathy, don't let people that have not your best interests at heart make decisions for you and your family. That's not the way to go. You need to get involved, you need to vote, and you need to get out to the 4th of July event at the Flying D Gun Club and meet the Law Dog himself, who will be there in person to congratulate you on your patriotism.
That sounded pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's all meet up there.
The Law Dog.
Yes, sir. We'll see all the Americans at this amazing 4th of July event, 1.5 miles east of Branford, Florida, on Highway 27. Thank you so much for being on the show today, George Duren. And as usual, the Bird Dog, for all the amazing things that he does to bring this information to all of our listeners. Thank everybody out there for putting the United back in the United States.
Listen, young one, it's not cool to be a thug. There is nothing good about going selling drugs. The money don't mean nothing when you're harming everyone. And you can get killed bringing pain to your mom. Take a legal substance and you can OT. Overdose from nasty chemicals in the streets. Live a happy life, you gotta keep your hands clean. And most importantly, think about your family.